Good afternoon, YouTube. Welcome to Ferret Face Fell Productions. I have Meager Extreme with me today. So right now we are out riding some single track on the both the electric dirt bikes we have. So we have a Raw Mantis and a Talaria. So if you've been here for the video prompt, or what do they call it, title, you're probably already upset because you clicked on this video and you're a Talaria fanboy. That's okay. So I want to preface this video of why am I disappointed in the Talaria Sting as a whole. Little background. So our Talaria Sting behind us is heavily modified. It is an MX3, and total value of the build right now is probably around $9,000, probably more. Yeah, this just kind of goes on to why we're kind of disappointed with the Talaria, even after all of its modifications. So quickly I'll go over the mods. So we have Dorado Manitou forks. The rear is what's the name of that shock that we put on it? Von Cart or something like that?
Oh, Von Cat, and then the 10.5 Von Cat rear.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Von Cat 10.5 rear and the Dorado
Manitou forks.
Yeah.
And then we have Warp 9 wheels with the large 220 millimeter rotors, I think. So much bigger rotors. Now the brakes are still the OEM brakes. We'll get to that later. And then
handlebars.
Yep, so then we have the Warp 9 handlebars with the big Warp 9 risers on them. We have Reflex Racing flag style handguards.
Dirty Bike foot pegs.
Yep.
The SXS skid plate. The Bach 4000 controller.
Yep.
Oh, the big one, the battery.
Yep, so then we have a JW 57 amp hour 60 volt battery. Yeah, that'll be another subject as we go through here. And of course, bigger chain, bigger sprocket on the rear 18 wheel. So it's also a Warp 9 wheel in the back. So yeah, it's a heavily modified Talaria Sting in the search of making it a really good dirt bike. And I feel like we still haven't gotten there as much money as we've spent, and that's disappointing. And I have the Raw Mantis in the background because I believe stock to stock, the goals of both the Raw Mantis and the Talaria Sting are different. Therefore, you know, the Mantis is a much better trail bike and dirt bike, and the Talaria is a lot more of a urban play bike, I guess. You know,
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, and we're gonna kind of go through step by step. So enjoy the ride, and we're just gonna talk about the Talaria. All right. So first things first, we're gonna talk about the MX3's stock suspension that we had. So when we got the MX3, there's multiple suspensions you could get at the time. I believe it was Fast Ace, D&M, and then the Talaria factory forks were like a brand new thing, or the factory suspension. I don't think they were coming on it, they were just selling them at the time. And so we had the D&Ms, the D&M Volcanoes. So I'll let Mark talk about them first. What did you think about the forks?
They blew out right away. I would say after the first ride, maybe the second ride,
Yep.
they were toast. We will bring you that at some point. We do still have them. We do plan to open them, but yeah, they're shot. That's why we had to get something on the bike. And I know some people will say, well, why didn't you just get the KTM 85s, I think they are.
I wish I had
the dirt bike. Yeah, I know. They're a little bit more, but they would have probably held up forever.
Yeah, so this goes into part of my gripe, which is that these bikes are a hybrid of mountain bike parts as well as, you know, I guess not even really, I don't even think they have much for dirt bike parts.
No.
So they're kind of pretending to be a dirt bike with mountain bike parts. So let's maybe put it that way. And the Volcano D&Ms, the shim stacks is what goes bad on those. They get crushed right away. So the new Talaria factory forks on the MX4 are much better. Still, it's a mountain bike fork, so you take that for what it is. So that's an improvement that they made. I'll give Talaria credit there. Now that being said, we went with the Manitou Dorado forks, and we're still not super happy with them. They're far better. We haven't blown them out or anything. They're a traditional spring oil type fork.
Yeah.
Much better, but the problem that we have is that they actually have less travel, so it's easier to bottom them out. And then of course we went to a 21-inch wheel, which is more rotating mass and stuff. So that high-end mountain bike-ish fork is still taking an absolute beating from riding in general. Now On the flip side, we never had any issues with the rear shock, I don't think. Really? Did we have any problems?
Well, it was rubbing, remember? We didn't know why
yeah,
the
we don't know
spring
why.
was rubbing on the body.
Yeah, the spring was rubbing on the
We never
body.
looked into
Not
that.
sure really what happened there. Nonetheless, so we decided to go all out on the suspension stuff. And the rear, we're actually pretty content with. I actually think the rear
Yeah,
is
I
pretty
think
decent.
the rear has worked.
Yeah, that's, of course, that's a very expensive, suspension setup, so not everybody's gonna have the money to do that. Yeah, so next we'll move on to, let's just talk about the wheels. What was your perception of the 19-inch wheels stock?
Scary when you're a trail rider because just being the small diameter, and it's the same with the RAR surrounds and what have you. 19-inch,
would be nice.
just on the trail, at least in our boulders and our rocky
Anywho, was
terrain,
quite a fat pig on this.
it's much harder to ride just because you don't have that big wheel running stuff over.
Yeah, that was kind of a bigger shock to me on the Talaria than it was the Mantis, and part of it I think it's the shorter wheelbase and a little bit more, the different rake on the front end. It makes the bike a little bit more tippy. I don't even know what the right word is. It's a lot more, if you don't get your weight back and you don't really pop that front wheel when you're going over obstacles, it's a lot more likely that you get yeeted front off the bike, thrown off the bike, which is what I did the first day we had it.
And we should also point out, it came with mountain bike tires.
Yeah, that too. That's
That was
good
the other
point.
thing, because they don't stop you down steep downhills, and there's no traction going up steep uphills,
Yeah.
because there's no knobs.
Yeah. So that's another big con to us is you get a very mountain bike-esque setup with the Talaria. So going to the Warp 9 2118 wheels, that was a must on this. No qualms with the Warp 9 wheels, by the way. Like, they're phenomenal, beautiful wheels. Even the brake rotors that came with them are quite awesome. So if you're looking to upgrade your stuff, that's a great route to go.
Same with the sprocket.
Oh yeah, forgot about that.
Yeah, the sprocket
And
looks
I'm trying to remember what size. We went with a 54 on the rear, I believe. So don't quote me on that. We'd have to look. But we did all this in looking for more traction and better just handling off-road, which it did give us to a certain extent, but it doesn't overcome some of the rake angle issues and the short wheelbase feel. The feel of the bike is very flickable and light. But when you're really pushing it and going over stuff, we still feel like the suspension, as much as we've put into it, isn't quite there.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so on the MX-3, when we first bought it, it had, I believe, a 60-volt, 38-amp-hour battery. So pretty much run-of-the-mill. I think it was a marginally more power than the Sur-Ron at the time. And the 6,000 watts stock controller, it was all what we expected. There was nothing crazy amount of power. You wanted a little bit more. The range was meh. So that's kind of what we've come to expect from these bikes. So there's no hate on that particular thing. So we wanted a bigger battery. Now, this adds a lot of cost. Battery, I think we paid $2,300 almost for the battery.
Sounds right.
So and JW no longer, I think, manufactures batteries anymore. But we have other suppliers that we go through now. But this battery we've been very happy with. The JW battery upgrade, out of everything we've done to the Talaria, has probably been my favorite thing.
Yeah.
It's given us a lot more range. I would say that we can actually go 30 to, I'd say between 30 and 40 miles trail riding, but it's a wide window simply because it really depends on how you're riding and what kind of terrain you're on. So, but I would say a solid 30 to 35 probably is pretty accurate with the battery that's in it. And that's a good day's riding, especially in single track. So that was really good. Now the thing that we had paired with our big battery was a back 4000 controller on the recommendation of Motoclaps. I wish we had not gone that route. I didn't know a lot at the time about controllers. I knew that KO had just come out with the Nano, and we were kind of trusting Motoclaps to guide us in the right direction with the controller, some support. It didn't go well. Let's just say that the back 4000 has been probably one of the most big pain in the butt things that we've had to adjust and play with. I've had to learn. That's not a good experience for a customer or even a shop. I don't want to have to be, constantly retuning and messing with certain features on a controller at all times. And from them, it came with the wrong temperature profile set up for the motor. It had the wrong field weakening setup on it, so it was a very frustrating experience going to that controller. Now that we have it set up to put out 14.5 kilowatts max, so our Sport 9 mode puts out, pretty much the most that controller will do, and probably about the most the motor will handle, honestly. Lots of power, but there's some caveats to this particular motor and how it receives power. And I think this is the reason why the motor got upgraded to a different style, if you will. I'm not going to go into the types of motors and everything else, but let's just say on the MX3, there are times when you give it lots of power and it's the magnets are in between the coils almost and nothing there. And then you move it ever so slightly and then everything is there. So it can be kind of dangerous. It can be kind of hard to finagle when you want power, especially on steep stuff. That's another frustrating angle that we've had with this bike, and I think Mark's experienced that as well.
Yeah, I've experienced that quite a bit, where you're in a technical spot and there's just no power, and then you have to play around with it, and then it comes back, and you have to be careful with it.
Yeah, and part of that will be partially helped because we still have the stock throttle going to a Domino. But once again, we're already a lot of money into this, and I just feel like there's better options as a electric dirt bike or electric trail bike even at the price point, because we put so much money into it, and I feel disappointed a little bit. It's not that it's a bad bike. We still ride it. We still have fun. It's become very popular in rentals here recently. So, and I think it's been mostly reliable outside of the tuning issues. So the next thing we wanted to address was the gearbox oil setup, which I don't think has really changed much with the whole MX4. Doing the gearbox oil really sucks. And I know you really don't do it super often on these bikes, but draining it, okay, not a big deal. But refilling it was a hellacious process.
Oh, yeah.
You got to lift the front wheel up to get the fluid really kind of down in there. So we had like our pancake compressor with pieces of wood and a furniture dolly.
About 2 feet
Yeah,
up.
we had to get about 2 feet off the ground to get the fluid in there. And even then, we were just doing little by little. It took quite some time.
It took longer than it should for the amount of oil that it holds.
Yeah, because
which was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
That it just shows you like the design wasn't there. You know, somebody just didn't design it well. I mean, it should be a quick drain it and fill it, and you're done.
Yeah, and it is not that. I can tell you. Once you have to do it, a lot of people it's not a pleasant experience, and it's like, okay, well, I got it done. But you got to remember, we're moto guys. Like when I go in to do an oil change, we're a rental shop, so if I've got to do 3 bikes of oil changes, like I can crank them out. You know, drain, fill, oil filter, fill it back up. I'm telling you that the Talaria it would have been the equivalent of doing like 10 or 15 bikes oil changes.
Yeah, it took forever.
You know, and if I have to service these, which we'll absolutely do an oil change for you, but I have to figure how much labor I'm going to charge somebody to do it. And yeah, it's probably not going to be super kind on somebody's wallet. And we'll give them a discount because I don't hate my customers. But once again, it's little things like that we have to consider in the design and engineering of these bikes and what they're really purpose-built for. And now that I'm at $9,000 or so in upgrades for this bike, I just feel like I'm going to stop, because if I put a KO motor in it because I want better motor feel, and now I got to retune it again, and do I go to a different controller? Do I, playing with that at our level is just frustrating. And I feel like a lot of customers, it'll be frustrating too. They want their stuff to work outside of the box. They want it to be good. And I don't want to lie to my customers. And as we sit here and thought about what is the MX4 or MX3, what is the Talaria Sting really for? It's a lot more into the play bike category.
Yeah,
it really
play
is.
bike, urban.
Yeah. And I'm gonna
doing the wheelies,
yeah,
which you see all over YouTube, unfortunately.
Yep.
That brings the heat on all of us.
It does, yeah. And I always say, do what you can afford. I have a very libertarian mindset, so I don't really care what you do after you buy it. But yeah, it does kind of make us look bad when they want to ban or outlaw things because people are doing illegal stuff. That would hurt our business pretty insurmountably at this point. And then, we have other bikes in the space now that might be better. So let's talk about the RAR Mantis for a second. And I want to do a direct comparison at some point. I don't think This is maybe what exactly I was going for in this video, but I want to say as a dirt bike out of the box, the Raw Mantis comes with really good tires. It comes with a suspension that can actually handle a 200-pound rider over rough terrain. I'm talking about rocky terrain. Go check out Meeker Extreme's Mount Rosa. Like, the forks have held up, suspension as a whole is held up, the motor's held up, the feel is a lot better. Power is there, torque is there, so on and so forth. You know, we all want bigger batteries. We've talked about that. But overall, the Raw Mantis costs $5,000 MSRP. The Talaria is $4,500. And that $500 extra for the Mantis is worth every penny, in my opinion. It comes with bar risers. That's one thing I didn't hit earlier was the Warp 9 risers are almost absolutely required if you're going to do any off-road riding on the Talaria, because that mountain bike stem, the moment you hit a hard rock or tweak, it moves. It moves, you know, and that's just not, it can't handle its own weight really. So I'm not saying Talaria is a horrible bike. You got to buy what you enjoy and things that you think are really cool. If you test them out and you like the Talaria, buy it. Everybody's different. That's the whole point of motos and dirt biking. Hey, I want an electric instead of a gas. Hey, I want a gas instead of electric. I want a 2-stroke instead of a 4-stroke. You know, it's not. There's no right or wrong answer in this. I think the design and purpose of the Talaria is just different than something like a Mantis or a Sur-Ron Ultra B. Let's even go there.
Yeah.
You know, so. Think about these things when you're looking at buying one of these electric dirt bikes and come out and try them. Here at A&M Moto Toys, we rent them, and hey, if you want to come in and just test them out in the parking lot, that's free. So it's not all about us just trying to make money on rentals, but I really encourage you, if you're going to make a several $1,000 purchase, spending $100 or even $300 to rent each one of them for a couple of days or whatever it is a lot smarter decision than buying a Talaria and finding out, oh my God, I have to spend $2,000 for this, or $1,500 for wheels, or whatever it may be. So that's my point to this video.
I guess the plus side is there's a lot of aftermarket for the Talaria and the Sur-Ron versus the Mantis, but that is going to change and then evolve where there's going to be a lot of aftermarket for the Mantis because you got a company that is willing to build those parts, loan bikes out to get parts built. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's going to be exciting. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see another year how that plays out.
And that's a good point. If you're looking to build something very specific to your needs, the Talaria is a good platform because you got KO and EBMX batteries as well as
big
motors
and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of options. It's just how deep are your pockets.
And at that point, why don't you buy a Stark Varg or something if you're going full moto?
Or Storm B.
Or Storm B.
Yeah.
Or Ultra B.
Yep. Yeah. So once again, it's things to think about. This is more of a not hating on Talaria as much as, what are you buying it for and what are your uses? Mm-hmm. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching. We'll catch you all on the next one. Ferret Face out.
Hey there.
Oh, God, what's wrong with you?
Oh, I guess it's recording.
My ass is sweaty.
Well, we'll be including the ass is sweaty, too.
Oh, shit. Do we want to do further away, closer?
I don't like my crotch in it, but you have to get so fucking into it.
Is there a narrow view on this?
I don't know.
Fuck, dude. Can you even see the bikes and shit back there?
Okay, well, we'll just kind of lean back.